guys, how you all doing today? Thanks for being here. Of all places that you could be, I am so glad that you are here with me today. I'm Barb, and welcome to Halfway to Sane, where together we explore real cases with respect, clarity, and curiosity. In a world where truth hides in the shadows, we uncover the stories that refuse to stay buried, and every case deserves to be told. Today we are doing a story on the upcoming execution of Anthony Darrell Duggard Hines. And Anthony was born on April 20th, 1960, and in early 1985, at the age of 24, he traveled by bus from Raleigh, North Carolina, departing on March 1st with a non-refundable ticket to Bowling Green, Kentucky, and $20 in spending money. A witness who saw him before he left recalled that he was carrying a hunting knife in a sheath concealed beneath his shirt. The bus route took him through the Nashville, Tennessee area, and rather than continuing directly onto Kentucky, Anthony stopped along Interstate 40 near Kingston Springs and checked into a room at the Seabond Motel. Now 54-year-old motel maid Kathereince Jenkins, who went by Kathy, worked at the Seabond Motel in Kingston Springs, and on March 3, 1985, the manager had left her in charge of the motel that morning at about 9:30, with a Cheatham County State bank bag containing $100 in small bills to make change for customers. At that point, guests were still occupying rooms number 9, 21, and 24. And at some point that morning, Catherine wheeled her cleaning cart to room 21, and sometime between 1 o'clock and 1:30, a visitor to the motel obtained a key from the office and opened up that room to door 21, where he found Catherine's body wrapped in a sheet, partially undressed with her underwear torn, a $20 bill tucked under her watch band, and multiple stab wounds to her chest and abdomen. The autopsy revealed 4 deep stab wounds to the chest, which were 2.5 to 6.4 inches, with a butcher or hunting type knife, plus superficial cuts to the neck and collarbone, and a penetrating wound through the upper vagina into the abdominal cavity. The small amount of blood in the vaginal area suggested the injury occurred at or near death. She also had defensive wounds on her hands and arms, and the autopsy also found evidence of sexual assault. Her car, which was a Volvo, her wallet and keys were missing, and the bank bag was found in the room, bloody and empty. Investigators later found knife marks on the wall of room 9, the room where Anthony Darrell Duggard Hines had checked in, which he later admitted were made by a knife. Now, when he was shown photographs of the marks in the wall, Anthony did acknowledge they were knife marks, though ballistic-style comparison indicated they had been made by a different, smaller knife than others associated with him. Jenkins' wallet was later found wrapped inside a thermal underwear shirt not far from where her car was discovered abandoned. A key to room 9 of the Seabond Motel was recovered at a site near Cave City, Kentucky, where Anthony Hines had reportedly been camping. Now, travelers who encountered Anthony Hines on the road near Jenkins' broke-down car recalled that he had dried blood on his shirt, he seemed nervous, he contradicted himself, and talked at length, at one point claiming that he had bought a car from an elderly woman for $300 or $400. When Anthony Hines later arrived at a family member's home, his sister noticed the blood on his shirt, and he admitted to her that he had stabbed someone at the motel, although he described the victim to her as being a male motel employee who had allegedly assaulted him, and he physically demonstrated the stabbing motion to her. Around the same time, despite having been unable to afford a bus ticket days earlier, Anthony had purchased a barbecue grill and told his sister he had come into a substantial amount of money. When law enforcement took Anthony Hines into custody, he volunteered without having been told a woman had been killed, and he had taken the woman's car, but that he had not killed her. Now, when a Tennessee Bureau investigation agent later pressed him to tell the truth about Jenkins' death, Hines said that if the officer could guarantee him the death penalty, he would confess and tell him everything. Now, nearly 4 decades later, the daughter of Kathereince Jenkins said she is still waiting for justice. This man is going to live rent-free in my head for the rest of my life. There's no closure, and it's not going to bring my mom back. Now, court filings from Hines' attorneys described him as suffering from multiple serious medical conditions, and his attorneys argued those conditions make carrying out the execution unconstitutional. Melissa Jenkins said those arguments do not erase what her family has lived with since March 3rd, 1985. Now, she says the criminal gets all of the focus because they are the ones still alive and walking around. Everybody forgets about the victim and the victim's families. For Melissa, the case has already lasted longer than she ever imagined. She said, I understand getting a couple of appeals, but 40 years later, that is just insane. Now, Anthony Hines was initially sentenced to death in 1986. However, at the time, the court found errors in the jury instructions during the sentencing phase. This led to a new sentencing hearing. And in 1989, a new jury again sentenced Hines to death after finding aggravating factors that pointed to his crimes. And following the 1989 sentence, Hines filed numerous direct appeals petitions and claims alleging constitutional violations, ineffective assistance of counsel, and prosecutorial errors. These proceedings took more than 10 years to resolve, and in 2020, a court ruled that Anthony Hines deserved a new trial since his attorneys had provided ineffective assistance. However, in 2021, the court reversed its decision and upheld the death sentence and the original conviction after claiming that the evidence of guilt was overwhelming. Hines then continued his numerous appeals and requests for stays of execution and clemency. However, in 2026, once Hines' appeals were exhausted, Tennessee Governor Bill Lee stated that he would not intervene and a death sentence would follow. Now, of course, there are people who are fighting against the death for Anthony Hines. They think because of his medical condition, he should not be put to death. Anthony recently suffered 2 strokes and is severely incapacitated. He is bedbound, paralyzed on his left side, blind in his left eye, and in constant excruciating pain. He is struggling to speak, chew, or swallow. Executing him will be traumatic for prison staff who will have to lift him from a wheelchair and who will almost certainly encounter difficulty establishing intravenous lines in which to inject him. Well, if he's in such excruciating pain and having such medical problems, death might be welcoming to him. But unless a court grants Anthony Hines' request for another delay or the governor intervenes, Tennessee is scheduled to carry out the execution at 10 a.m. on August 13th. I don't know, guys. But listen, thank you for listening. Thank you for spending time learning about the case. And remember, behind every headline are real people whose story deserves to be told. If you enjoyed this and found it informative, then please, if you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe, share, hit that thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate it. And until next time,